It is no secret that there is a demand for newborns. Over 1 million potential parents in the United States every year compete to have the opportunity to adopt a newborn and raise their own family for the price of up to $40,000, making adoption a big business. And the most coveted product? Newborns. Children up to 3 years old make up 37% of adoptions, with teens making up less than 10%. So what if you could make sure you had a steady supply of newborns? And if it was illegal all around, would the women or the potential parents even report you? This is the situation that Dr. Thomas J. Hicks happened upon in the 1950s. McKaysville, Georgia was a quiet, tiny town with a little over 2,000 people in the 1950s. A place where phone numbers rarely crossed 4 digits. Safe, cozy. The type of place where nothing happened, let alone anything bad. Thomas J. Hicks was a known and favorite town doctor. Women, particularly pregnant women, would travel from miles and miles away just to seek his services, including his illegal service, abortion.
He was a good man, a good-hearted man. He would do anything for anybody. Sometimes he paid a price for it.
In the early 1950s, Hicks allegedly began advertising abortion services to unwed pregnant women. His advertisement posters were placed in phone booths, bus stations, and bridges. As time ticked by, Hicks saw a business opportunity. He began convincing a small group of women, mostly young, poor women from Georgia and Tennessee, who came to him for abortions, to carry their pregnancies to term. He arranged for them to stay at a nearby hotel until their due dates, and he promised to find adoptive parents for their unborn children, without requiring them to go through complicated legal procedures. However, the women had no idea that Dr. Hicks would sell the babies. When families came to the clinic to adopt the babies, Hicks made the women pretend they had just given birth. He'd have them put on a medical gown and lie down on a table. Then he'd place the baby in their arms. Adoptive families from out of town frequently drove up to the door. Babies were simply handed to them through the door or the window. The babies were sold for $800 to $1,000 each. Worse, it is unknown whether Hicks compensated the mothers for the babies. Dr. Hicks lied to the birth mothers if they wanted to back out, telling them that their babies had died after birth. Hicks would then sell the newborn with a forged birth certificate, leaving no trace of the birth mother.
Dr. Hicks kept no records. This was not a traditional adoption.
In 1964, the town sheriff searched and arrested Hicks for performing illegal abortions. Hicks gave up his Georgia medical license to avoid prosecution, but by that time, over 200 babies had already been sold. Jane Blasio was one of the Hicks babies in January 1965.
Well, my sister and I, she was also from the Hicks Clinic, had heard some kids on the playground calling us black market. So when you're 6 years old, what do you know about black market? Nothing. And actually, when you're 26, you shouldn't know anything about black market. But that's how we first learned about it. And I can remember my parents had called me in from the yard I was playing, and I went into the living room and sat down, and Michelle was there, and she was crying. And they said, you know, the kids on the playground said black market, we just want you to know that you were adopted and there's nothing wrong with that. And basically that was it. And a 6-year-old wants to run and get away from any drama. I did anyway. And so I'm like, okay, cool, I'm out. And I went out and left at that point.
Blasio first went to McKaysville to look for her birth mother in 1988. She was 23 years old at that time. After her initial search was fruitless, she contacted a Georgia probate attorney. Her decade-long search for her birth parents resulted in the discovery of the Hicks illegal babies. She discovered, with the help of the judge, that the clinic sold babies while it was open. The judge discovered records indicating a disproportionate number of women visiting the Hicks clinic. Unfortunately, Hicks did not keep track of the birth mothers. The majority of biological mothers vanished after giving birth to their children. Jane Blasio eventually became an expert in illegal adoptions and told her story publicly in 1997. Blasio began identifying and reuniting other victims of the Hicks Clinic human trafficking scheme after a decades-long personal investigation. Have the Hicks babies been reunited with their birth parents? Yes. However, not all of the children have been reunited. According to Blasio, 50 of the 200-plus children have been identified and located. Many come forward after their adoptive families reveal that they had been adopted from the Hicks Clinic. With at-home DNA tests becoming more accessible, Ancestry.com volunteered to do samples for suspected Hicks babies for free, as time is running out for them to find a living relative. At this point, finding parents is unlikely, but several Hicks babies have found cousins, such as Christy Hughes, who happened upon a first cousin on the website, which then led to aunts, brothers, and finally, her mother. Christy's mother was one of the mothers that wanted her child. Dr. Hicks told her that her daughter was stillborn and had her sign her daughter's death certificate before discreetly selling her baby. After all this time, what became of the infamous Dr. Hicks and his colleagues? Well, Dr. Hicks was married with 2 children, a son and a daughter. Unfortunately, his son and his wife are now deceased. In 1972, Dr. Hicks died of leukemia at the age of 83, taking all traces of the children's identification with him. The nurse, the secretary who signed the false documents, Hicks' lawyer, and the sheriff who did the investigation are also no longer with us. Aside from families who may eventually tell their adult children, DNA tracking is the only way for Hicks babies to find their biological relatives. What do you think of the story of Dr. Hicks and the babies? Feel free to let us know in the comments. If you like this episode, please give this video a like and check out our channel. Thank you for tuning in, and take care.